Welcome back everyone to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch and today we're going to take a look at the winner of the Salt Lake City Regional Championships, that is Hisuian Goodra VSTAR, piloted by Hale Obernolt. Please leave a pronunciation guide in the comments for me, Hale, if you're watching. I'd really appreciate that. This card is very, very good. It's got two pieces of text on it that are very, very nice. The first, Rolling Iron, is the attack. For a water, a metal, and a colourless, we deal 200 damage, which in and of itself is pretty good, but the real impact comes from the effect of the attack, which says that during your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes 80 less damage. That means that pretty much everything in the format is going to struggle to take a one-hit knockout on Hisuian Goodra VSTAR. It's very, very strong, and when you pair that with its VSTAR power, an ability called Moisture Star, it gets even better. Moisture Star means that during your turn you may heal all damage from this Pokemon. As simple as that. You use the ability, you pick all the damage up, and you remove it. It's as simple as that. Very, very powerful. You can only use it once, but it means that Goodra is very, very hard to knock out. When we pair that up with the ever-popular Arceus VSTAR, we can get ourselves into a situation where we've got a Goodra that has a bunch of energy on it and can sit in the active, tanking hits whilst knocking out your opponent's active Pokemon almost every turn. Arceus VSTAR, if you haven't seen this card before, 280 HP normal type Pokemon with Trinity Nova for 3 energy. It deals 200 damage, and we search our deck for up to 3 basic energies and attach them to our Pokemon V however we like. That can power up our Goodras on the bench, and we also have Starbirth as a V-Star power, just as good, if not better, than Goodra's VSTAR. During your turn, search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them in your hand. Very, very nice. We can use Arceus in the early game to accelerate a bunch of energy to our Goodra. We can use Starbirth to find the Goodra if we need them in the first place. And if we're going second, we can even use Trinity Charge from Arceus V to get those energies onto our Goodra. It is super, super consistent at doing that. There are almost no other Pokemon. The only other one is Radiant Gardevoir, which reduces the amount of damage that Goodra takes from attacks from Pokemon V. A very, very nice support mon that we can stick on the bench and make Goodra even tankier. Now you'll notice that we've got a couple of other cards in this deck list here that are very, very useful, Hyper Potion being one of them. Hyper Potion heals 120 damage from your Pokemon, and then you discard 2 energy from it. It's usually a very high cost, but considering the fact that we are playing 4 copies of double turbo energy, that means that we can very easily attach one of these, heal 120, and then go about our business. That is super, super good, and when you combine that with the fact that we play 3 copies of Crystal Cave, we can heal up to 150 damage with 2 cards, as simple as you like. Really, really strong combination. I love this deck. The one card that I think this deck, though, has really shone through using is Colress's Experiment, a card that we've not seen in a lot of decks apart from those Lost Zone variants. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, put 3 of them in your hand, 2 of them in the Lost Zone. Doesn't seem like it's that good of an effect, but when you've got really, really big hands, your opponent's not playing Roxanne or Marnie, you can set up turns where you have heaps of healing, heaps of options, and it all comes from Colress being able to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and choose 3. Ultimately, I think this deck is really, really cool. I think that it's definitely deserving of its first place finish. If you'd like to check it out in either Pokemon TCG Live or on PTCGO, there is a deck list down in the description. Whilst you're there, leave a like if you like the videos. And otherwise, let's jump into some games to show off just how tanky Goodra can be. Game time, and we are up against one of the decks that really took Salt Lake City by storm. It is Regigigas, the ever-popular single prizer. I think this is a very, very strong deck at the moment, but luckily, Goodra is even better. Especially this matchup, I think it's an auto-win. I think we should be able to show off the strength of Goodra here. The maximum amount of damage that a Regi deck can realistically deal to a Goodra would be something like, what, maybe 160 or so. I think if the Regidrago attacks, it's 160. And then, oh, maybe 190 with the choice belt. So we can potentially see 190 damage if they do get attacks off before we get our attack off first. If we do get an attack off, then they'll be dealing 110, and they'll need to hit us 3 times to be able to win the game. Alright, so we need to get something pretty good here. I'm going to, Colress. We need to get a couple of good cards. And I tell you what, those 3 cards are actually really good. So we've got Quick Ball, Goodra, and Double Turbo Energy here. This is incredible. We can Quick Ball away, I think, the Water Energy. That seems like the least useful card in our hand. We're going to grab Arceus V. We're going to chuck that onto the bench. We're going to attach the Double Turbo to that Arceus. And then use Trinity Charge. I think we are in a pretty good position. I like the idea of attaching energies to a Goodra. Let's Trinity Charge, accelerate 3 energies. We need 2 metal and a water, or we need 1 water, 1 metal, and another energy. And we just so happen to have done it. It's as simple as that. As simple as that. Now, you may have noticed, by the way, that all of the cards in my deck are very fancy now. And I'm using the London sleeves. That's because, over the weekend, I migrated my account to Pokemon TCG Live. Now, you might be saying, Mitch, why did you do that? Are you insane? That was a bad decision. Well, maybe. I don't think so. I think that it's actually going to work out pretty well. I don't think that I will ever play Pokemon TCG online ever again, so I elected to do it. If you would like to see that happen in real time, as well as the very comedic outcome of a couple of button clicks that went amusingly wrong, then you are more than welcome to check out the brand new playlist that is in the playlist section, which is called Live Streams in bracket get it question mark end bracket. And I think that's a very funny joke because it's a live stream. Did you get it? It's a Pokemon live stream. It's very funny. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised you don't get it, to be honest. Here comes Regieleki into the active. Are we going to see a Terra Spark? Ancient Wisdom will get a bunch of energy onto this Regieleki, but I've not been paying attention, so I don't know if they have the attack. You would assume that they're doing it because they have the option to attack here. It looks like Terra Spark is the way forward. No attack from Regirock, which is good for us. They're not taking prizes early. They will not take a KO on this Arceus. And now, all we need to do is retreat into Goodra, and I think we're pretty much safe here. Like, I think that there's not a huge amount that our opponent will be able to do in this situation. So, it's pretty much as simple as just evolving. We might Marnie first, so we'll shuffle the hand to the bottom of our deck and get a bunch of cards here. We'll do that because we might find like a Switch or something. Didn't find the Switch, but we did find Crystal Cave, and we also found a Big Charm. That means that when we retreat into this Goodra, we will effectively have 300 HP, heal the Crystal Cave. We'll go down to 10 damage on our Goodra. We'll chuck the other Arceus down, we might as well do that, and then we'll just, we'll attach, and then we'll Rolling Iron. I think that's a pretty solid turn. We take the knockout on the Regieleki. We're now taking 80 less damage. Our opponent's going to draw some cards because of the gift energy, but that's okay. And we've managed to find a Hyper Potion off of the prizes. So now if we find a single energy, does not matter what our opponent does, we will be able to heal every single drop of damage off of the Goodra V this turn. So yeah, just a matter of sitting behind this attacker now and attacking until eventually our opponent gives up, because there's not a huge amount that Regigigas can do. If you saw the Salt Lake Regionals stream, which you may have done, Salt Lake City, then you may have seen just how good decks like Hisuian Goodra VSTAR are against these half-hitting basic Pokemon decks. There's just simply not enough damage coming out of Regigigas to pose a real threat. Now, they could theoretically gust up the 3 Pokemon that are on my bench and take knockouts, but 5 prizes will not win our opponent the game. The only way that they ever give themselves a chance here is if this Goodra gets knocked out, and to be brutally honest, the fact that I can double Turbo Energy attach next turn and then research looking for a Hyper Potion means that I'm probably going to be fine. Like, I don't think that there's anything realistically our opponent can do. They're going to keep playing it out though. They're going to keep going. Ancient Wisdom will find them the energy that they'll need to attack with Regigigas. I don't think that it's going to realistically be enough though to create too much drama for us. There's the Gigaton break, only 100, 180, minus 80. because of our attack last turn. And now, well, I mean, we can attach double turbo. We can Melony to the active as well, which I actually think is not a bad idea. We can just chuck that energy on the active and draw some cards. This seems pretty good. Getting the Crystal Cave will heal some more. And I mean, we can attach a DTE now to an Arceus just as a backup attacker and go in with the Rolling Iron. Just keep attacking over and over, keep the pressure up, and hope that our opponent doesn't have like a massive play that I'm not expecting. I don't think that there's anything that they can realistically do to come back from that. And that's another Hyper Potion off of the prizes. We had 2 of them prized, apparently. There you go. But yeah, no, so hopefully you are enjoying the videos here on live. I think that it is a better experience to play. I hope that it's a better experience to view. If it's not, apologies, but in 3 months everyone will be on live anyway, so we'll have to get used to it eventually. One thing that I do really like about live is the fact that the background music is actually listenable. I still haven't quite managed to figure out the audio levels, so I think this time they might be, like the last couple were a little too loud for me, and these ones I think are a little too quiet, so I'll have to continue to muck around with those settings, but I think it's definitely achievable. But yeah, it means that we don't need to have random music in the background anymore. You might like the random music, but I like the game music. I think the game music is actually interesting. Although, in saying that, I used to think that the PTCGO music was good. I played a billion trillion games. There is no way that I am ever listening to that soundtrack ever again. It's just not going to happen. It's just too much. So, not going to happen. And yeah, as I mentioned, live streams and stuff are happening, at least semi-regularly. I'm going to do my best to put out some sort of schedule to tell you what's coming up, by the way. Let's attach DTE to the active. We are then going to use Hyper Potion. We will heal 120 damage and remove a DTE from the active. And then, I mean, we can just Rolling Iron again. There's nothing much more that our opponent can do. We can research at some point. If we find a stadium, we can heal all of the... They've just given up. That's perfectly reasonable. I didn't see a way back for them. And you know what? Neither did they. You have a good deck. Going back in, and we are up against a Sobble. We've got a DTE and an Arceus. We can end the turn there. That's pretty much all we need to do. We've got nothing else in our hand. We've got the Goodra back here. We have no other basics, but we do have an Evolution Incense, and we're about to find out what we're playing against. It looks like it's going to be Palkia. So this matchup's actually quite interesting. Us going first is a good thing. Them going first, they can definitely get the win. Although, to be fair, I feel like it's still definitely possible for Palkia to beat Goodra, regardless of the situation. It is quite difficult, though. So they will need to work hard for it, but it's definitely a close matchup. Whether it's 50-50 or not, I'm not 100% sure. So it looks like our opponent here has some nice and symmetrical violence going on. A couple of Palkias, a couple of Sobbles, and a Greninja. We can Evo Incense next turn, provided that they don't play Path to the Peak, and grab ourselves an Arceus. With that Arceus, we're definitely going to grab a Goodra, but we might grab another card with that as well. And Avery looks incredibly good. I am not going to lie to you. And Avery feels like a very, very strong card at this point. We're going to attach to the Arceus. We are going to Avery. And we're going to see what we can find. I like a Switch. I like a Big Charm. I like a Goodra. I do not think that there's a world, now that we've Averied, where this Palkia is able to knock out a Goodra V with a Big Charm on it. So we will grab Goodra. And then I think... I mean, we've got lots of options here, but I think the thing that we want the most going into next turn is just a usable supporter. So I'm thinking we probably go for a Colress. I think that's the best choice. So let's grab that. It means that we'll be able to actually get going a little bit more next turn. We obviously already have a lot of the cards that we need, and this Trinity Nova will power up our Goodra, which is fantastic. But I think that we do need a draw supporter for next turn. We've got the energy now. Attach all of those to Goodra, and then we'll evolve into one of these two Hisuian Goodras, and go from there. We also get to take a prize, which is pretty handy. DTE, definitely workable. So, as I was mentioning, I'm planning on putting out some sort of schedule that'll show you the 3 videos per week that I'm planning on making. That is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 11 PM my time. Whatever time that is for you, you will need to look it up yourself. And we're also planning on doing 1 stream minimum a week, whether that's like a Saturday, or a Tuesday, or a Thursday, or a Sunday, or even a Monday, a Wednesday, or a Friday. It depends on how I'm feeling at the time, but I would like to play Pokemon TCG live with my other secret Pokemon account, which no one knows about and you won't tell anyone about. That would be bad. Because I want to show you that it's definitely achievable to reach Arceus tier with a free-to-play Pokemon Live account. So I'm going to do my very best to achieve that. I think it's more than possible. So we're going to do that on the live streams. That way, if you don't want to watch the live stream, you don't have to. You don't want to watch that, you're more than welcome to just watch the videos. And if you do, you can come along, engage, have some fun, and see how we go from there. Okay. Arceus didn't die, neither did Goodra. We have the V-Star, we can retreat, we can switch if we want, we can also Colress, and I'm thinking that grabbing Hyper Potion, Crystal Cave, and either Melony or Colress is a pretty good idea here. I like the idea of the Colress, we already have Melony in hand. So we will grab the Colress and send Melony and Path to the Peak to the Shadow Realm. It's a little bit disappointing, of course, that our opponent is able to use their V-Star power, but I'm not too fussed. We can throw that Goodra into the active here, and we're kind of in a position where we'll be able to just hit into our opponent over and over and over, and hope that we are able to heal enough damage. We have Hyper Potion and Double Turbo in hand, and there's no way that this Palkia is ever going to be capable of hitting a number higher than like 130 at this stage. They have 5 bench Pokemon, I have 1, that's 6 bench Pokemon, times 20 is 120, plus 60 for the base damage on Subspace Well is 180, plus Choice Belts 210, minus 80 is 130. Mathematics, ladies and gentlemen. 130, if I play down Double Turbo, Energy, Hyper Potion, and Crystal Cave, that'll heal every single point of damage that's dealt this turn. Which I'm a big fan of. We'll have to wait and see where they choose to attack, or where they choose to put this damage. If they put it on the active, then as I mentioned, we can heal it. If they take a knockout on the Arceus, then that's arguably better. I mean, it's kind of awkward because it means that our opponent will be able to use Roxanne at some stage and put us down to a pretty low hand size. I think the best thing that we have going for us is that there is the 2 other Goodras in the deck, and it is going to be boss, so they're choosing to take 2 prizes. And we have the other 2 Goodras in the deck, which means that we can play down another Goodra if we need to, evolve if we need to, have a second attacker. The risk, of course, of playing down a second Goodra is that our opponent may play Echoing Horn, which means they may be able to find prize cards when we don't want them to. Also, I am aware that I'm sitting in front of half my hand. There's not much I can do about that. Without putting myself on the top of the screen, there's nothing much else that we can realistically do. Let's go for a Melony. We'll attach the DTE because it doesn't really matter. And then we can simply Rolling Iron. We've got the Goodra in hand now, so we can put that on the bench at some point in the near future. But we want to see what our opponent does before we make any sweeping statements. Any decisions that could come back to bite us, like benching another Goodra. We don't want to do that straight away. We instead want to give our opponent an opportunity to play out their hand a little bit more, so we can figure out what is going on. But yeah, no, it's looking pretty good. I'm not surprised that this deck won, by the way, in Salt Lake City. In local regionals, I've been playing against Goodra quite a bit, and it's actually really frustrating to deal with. Very, very difficult for lots of decks to deal 300 damage, especially when you are reducing the amount of damage that is being dealt by 80. And in a situation like this, Palkia is not going to be able to do too much at all, which I am very, very happy about. The hand is still massive. I wouldn't be surprised if the Roxanne's coming down now. I don't know whether it was searched for or not, The choice belt has come down, though. And you'd imagine this quick ball is going to grab another Palkia. So I think we're going to be looking at a situation where if our opponent doesn't play Path, they can actually Star Portal to their other Palkia and set up maybe like a soft checkmate. Kind of. Potentially. Potentially. I don't know what's going on over there. There's lots of cards being played. There's another Drizzile. Another Drizzile is going to grab what? Another Drizzile is going to grab what card? A Heavy Ball. Okay. So the Hisuian Heavy Ball coming down here. Obviously looking... Oh, there is the Palkia. It's a nice full art Palkia. Matches the Palkia V-Star that we already knocked out. And here comes Shady Dealings Inteleon, able to search for 2 cards. You can see these Inteleon decks have pretty much everything that they want. And if we haven't seen Roxanne enter the hand already, I would suggest it's coming down right now. It looks like that's going to be the case. Here's the Path to the Peak. Here's the Roxanne. And if our 2 cards are good, we are A-okay. There are no problems here for me. Those 2 cards aren't great. I mean, they're fine. Their opponent can't knock out both Goodras at once. Certainly not ideal, though. This is tough. Okay, so do we bench the Goodra or not? There's a Goodra V-Star. So we've been given the entire Goodra line. We need to attach 3 energy manually. Do we bench this Goodra or not? I'm going to be attacking for 200 here. I don't think there's a world where our opponent ever knocks out the active Goodra this turn, even with me attaching energy to a benched Goodra. We're going to deal 180, and we're going to hope that they don't have access to a way to knock out the Goodra on the bench. If there's like, I don't know, a replacement stadium into retreat attack with Baby Palkia and a Gust as well, like, that's a lot of cards, but that could be a way. And that might leave us in a very awkward position because we won't be knocking out their Palkia, and they'll be in a position to knock us out the turn afterwards. So there's a very slim line here where they could just get it. I'm a little bit concerned about it, frankly, but we'll have to just wait and see what happens. We'll just have to wait and see what happens. Is there any music playing in the background anymore? I think I turned the volume down too much when I was recording. It was very, very faint back there. It's like bing, bing, ba-da-ding. Is that the way the sound works? Anyway. But yeah. We'll wait and see what happens. This is a very, very slow turn from our opponent. Not a lot going on over there. You'll notice that they've taken 17.5 minutes. Sorry, they are on 17.5 minutes on the clock. We've played for about 5 minutes less than them. And it's pretty much just because all we need to do is evolve and attack. We're going to take our last couple of prizes here. We don't have an energy, so we kind of need to hope that our opponent doesn't evolve into Palkia, or that we find something good off of these prize cards. Crystal Cave's pretty good. It's not amazing, but it's definitely fine. Let's see if they play down Palkia V-Star and replace the stadium. If they do, they'll be able to win the game. There's not much more I could have done. Just rolling irons and hoped for the best. That was a stifle of a yawn. They've passed. There's not much more that they have to do, which means I think we're pretty safe to Crystal Cave. Heal the damage. Rolling iron. Come on now, Palkia. I think they have bricked themselves off of their Roxanne to 6. And if they don't have anything here, they've just passed. Well, I never. Rolling Iron takes the knockout. We get 6 prizes against Palkia. Probably a little closer than it ought to have been. But you know what? We take the dubs when we get them. Turns out that Goodra is actually very, very strong. It's a really good deck. So thank you all for coming along and seeing Goodra in action. I always appreciate you dropping past. Also, if you've liked the stuff and you're watching here right now, then please leave a like. That would be great. It really helps the algorithm show people my stuff more. So hit the like. It's the most powerful thing you can do to promote your favorite content creators. Also, over on this side, if you are willing to donate money, like a person who has spare money, these people are members. And they're all legends. That's an up-to-date list, by the way. Every single one of them, up to date. Now though it's covered, the Mega Sableyes are being covered by Zeraora, which is a pretty good deck as well, and a deck that I'm only able to play because I have migrated across to Pokemon TCG Live. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If not, that's okay. We'll see you later, whatever. If you haven't enjoyed it, then I don't know what else I can realistically do, to be brutally honest. I think we're just going to end it here. This has ended very poorly.